First of all, I want to thank the grace of heaven and the virtues of the masters, the mercy of the grand predecessors, transmitting masters, and everyone here today for this opportunity to talk about four immeasurables. Okay, so yeah, it's actually four immeasurable. Well, we I guess in the past we talked about used the term four immeasurable minds, but I guess if you look up in maybe the Buddhist or whatever the terminology, they call it the four immeasurables. So why do we want to talk about the four immeasurables? We want to become Buddhas, right? Enlightened, awakened, enlightened beings. Okay, so just like the Buddhas, but we're all sentient beings, right? So, and basically, like the word bodhisattva. Okay, bodhisattva means is an awakened sentient being. Okay, so as Tao cultivators, we receive the Tao, we receive that point transmission from the enlightened master, and we can, well, as long as we cultivate, all right, we can cultivate and then we can transcend. And basically, if we cultivate well enough, have virtues and merits, then we can become, essentially like a Buddha. Okay. But, okay, so that's kind of like the external thing. But but there's some fundamental qualities you can say that we need to become a Buddha, or as a practicing bodhisattva. So basically, the what's called as bodhicitta. Okay, that's the mind of awakening. Strives for Buddhahood to benefit all sentient beings. Right, Buddhas and bodhisattvas is their vow, their goal to save all sentient beings. Okay, and so this is really the type of cultivation that we are doing in this white era. What's important, I kind of categorized into like the three, I guess, three aspects. Okay, where our mind or our mindset is very important, right? Because that is basically represents our potential, right? So our potential to be anything we want, anyone, to achieve whatever we want. Okay, so and that's all starts in our mind, and we have to have that proper mindset to be able to achieve the ultimate potential is to become a Buddha, right? Become enlightened, become a Buddha. Yeah, so that is the most important thing, that we need to have that proper mindset. And so this is basically the foundation, and that inspires us to achieve, something great, like become a Buddha. The second one is the commitment. So after we have that proper mindset, then we also need to commit. You can say like to resolve, and that's kind of like setting a direction. So, and it gives us that, it's like an inner force that kind of pushes us in that direction. Okay. So things like vows. Okay. And so this is also very important because, having that proper mindset, yes, that's true. But it doesn't, that's a potential, but it doesn't do anything, right? So we have to commit to something, right? And we have to be determined, resolved and have that will to want to do some things, right? Achieve some goal, right? So you can say that the commitment is also commitment. Yeah, it's commitment to certain goals. Okay, so that's why we'll talk about vows there, and then also so it's also like the function and motivation, all right, aspect of these three parts. And then finally, what we call, I don't know, like application or the implementation, right? Fulfillment of. So once we have that you can say that inner force, that direction with our vows, right? And then we have to implement it, right? We have to carry it out, fulfill those vows, right? And that involves, cultivation and practice. Okay, so these all three, and that's, you can call that, form and manifestations, right? So so basically, all three of these aspects are important, and you can say inseparable from this whole process of transforming ourselves from being a sentient being to an enlightened being, okay, a bodhisattva or a Buddha. Okay, so now let's go into then this mindset. So really, what is this is where the four immeasurables or four immeasurable minds, we call it, or sometimes the four boundless states of mind. Okay, this is where it comes in. Okay, so this is the foundation, the fundamental thing it is in our mind, right? And basically, they are these what we call loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity. Right? Basically, these four immeasurables they're the fundamental qualities or virtues of an awakened or an enlightened mind. Okay, the bodhicitta, and they are the reason why they're called immeasurables because when they're cultivated, they're meant to extend without limit, right, to all beings. Okay, so it's not just right. We're not just doing it for ourselves, right? We're doing it for all living beings, all beings. Okay, um, and doing it, and so basically it would encompass all sentient beings equally, right? So bodhisattvas display the awakened bodhi mind as, and also the four immeasurable minds, or four immeasurables, which is actually the precursor for complete enlightenment and liberation. Okay, so loving kindness, that's basically the wish for all sentient beings to be happy and to have cause for happiness, right? It's basically benevolence without attachment or bias. Okay, so yeah, I just kind of briefly go over these right now, and then I'll go into more detail a little bit later. Okay, and compassion is basically the wish for all sentient beings to be free from suffering and the causes of suffering, right? It's empathetic sorrow arising from seeing the pain of others, coupled with a strong desire to alleviate their suffering. Okay, so sympathetic joy, that's genuine joy in the happiness of others without a trace of jealousy or envy. Okay, rejoicing in the success and well-being of others as if it were our own. Okay, so, and then finally, equanimity, right, is regarding all beings as equal without attachment, aversion, or prejudice or bias, right? Profound understanding and acceptance that allows one to maintain inner peace despite the fluctuations in life. So these four immeasurables are the foundation and framework for the awakened mind. Okay, then we get to the other aspect, which is the commitment aspect. Okay, so this is where we talk about vows. And we know about like the four great bodhisattva vows. These are basically the four vows that Buddha took, right? So sentient beings are innumerable. I vow to ferry them all, right? Afflictions are endless. Afflictions are sometimes, or it could be delusions, okay, are endless. I vow to extinguish them all. Dharma teachings are infinite. I vow to master them all. And perfect enlightenment is unsurpassed. I vow to achieve it. Okay. The vows are actually they're an expression of those qualities that we call the four immeasurables. Okay, so and we'll talk about that in a bit, but so basically, the four immeasurables, they provide the inner foundation and motivation for taking and fulfilling these four vows, right? And then the vows in turn represent the active expression and commitment to apply the four immeasurables universally. Okay. And then I list, some Dharma class vows too. Okay, so it's not just the four great Bodhisattva vows. Usually we don't take those vows directly, right? But this is kind of like these four vows are kind of like the framework for all other vows. They're like the foundation, okay, or you can say the underlying principle, I guess, for all the other vows. So, for example, in the Dharma class, right, we take these vows. There are a total of 6 different vows for the Dharma class, but usually, and we talk about like the first one, prioritize the sacred or spiritual over the mundane, and the second one, giving of materials and Dharma. Okay, and then you have the other 4, which generally people don't take in the Dharma class. To be vegan, basically to purify mind, mouth, and body, dedicate oneself to Tao affairs, establish Tao temporal, and pioneer Tao. Okay, so and then there could be other vows, but all these vows really are in support of basically the goal, okay, that we want to achieve, which is basically enlightenment, full awakening, enlightenment, achieving Buddhahood. Okay, now the application, though. Okay, so this is the third part, which is also necessary, right? All 3 parts are necessary. This is where we kind of make things happen, right? So we try to fulfill the vows. In the case of I list the Noble Eightfold Path here because it is a practice, although it's not really specifically tied to particular vows. But the Noble Eightfold Path is a framework for the structured practice on the path of Buddhahood, right? So it's basically kind of like a guide or blueprint for living the life that leads to the end of suffering, right? Remember the 4 noble truths, that life or existence is suffering, right? And also the attainment of nirvana. So that's also the 4 noble truths. Okay, so it basically outlines a kind of like kind of a holistic training of wisdom and ethical conduct, right, and also mental discipline, right? So, although the 4 measurables, they're not separate. I mean, they are not separate from the Noble Eightfold Path. Rather, they're actually deeply integrated into the practice. Okay, they basically strengthens the ethical conduct and mental discipline components, and also provides the heart-centered motivation for the entire path. But there are, but this is also very important, right? Having the right view. Okay, so the right view is basically understanding the 4 noble truths is part of it, which is that existence is suffering, and the cause of suffering is basically ignorance that leads to the wrong views, right? Doubts, delusions, and desires, right? The cessation or the end of suffering is nirvana, and that's achieved by relinquishing desires and attachments. And so the way to end the suffering is to practice the Noble Eightfold Path, right? So this Noble Eightfold the right view, provides basically this profound insight, I guess, into the true nature of reality, right? So ignorance, right? And then right thought, okay, so to become free from evil, hatred, immorality, etc., right? So you have, kind, loving intentions, thoughts, they transform to compassion and tolerance, right? Benevolence and nonviolence become mercifulness and humaneness or empathy, right? Detachment and unselfishness turn to non-bias and equanimity, right? Elimination of improper intentions, thoughts, and desires leads to contentment and happiness and joy. Okay, so then the right mindfulness, awareness of one's deeds, words, and thoughts, right? Basically, we have to be aware that even our mind, well, I guess we say the conscious mind, the human mind is impermanent. It's called anicca, right? In terms of our feelings, our emotions, our desires, these things they call suffering. Regarding to the dharmas, or basically phenomena, they are dependent, right? They arise. There's the dependent origination. Everything, there's a cause that creates these phenomena. And there's no self-identity, no self-nature to them, right? That's called anatta. So these are the 3 dharma seals, actually. And then so these understanding, we have to have this proper understanding about stuff, to and that's what this Noble Eightfold Path talks. If we follow that, then that's what we'll practice. And a right effort, right, is diligence, right? We try to consolidate and increase existing good or wholesome qualities, promote good or wholesome qualities that have not yet arisen, and discard or existing evil or unwholesome qualities, and also to prevent evil or unwholesome qualities that have not arisen. Okay. Right concentration, right? Develop the calm, non-attached, concentrated mind based on uh, uh, the joy and pleasure from detachment, from concentration, fading of joy and equanimity and mindfulness, cessation of pleasure and pain, and pure equanimity and mindfulness. Okay, so uh, basically, patient, right, to cultivate, to attain Buddhahood. Okay, and we also, put in this vigorous effort, so uh, uh, tirelessly working towards that goal, right? um, Having the intense concentration of consciousness, right? So we have to, kind of basically increase our awareness, okay? Um, and also have the intense contemplation or discernment, right? Because that's ultimately we need that discerning wisdom, right? To basically distinguish true from false. Okay, what is eternal and what is not. Okay, then it gets to the right speech, right action, right or conduct, and right livelihood. So this is kind of basic things that uh, we kind of each right avoid lying, abusive language, slander, divisive speech, or double talk, and flattery or idle talk. And in terms of conduct, right, the three of the four, I mean, three of the five basic precepts, right? No killing, no stealing, no lust, right? And in terms of livelihood, right? Again, this is kind of a guide to say that we should avoid certain trades because they deal well. The ones that deal with instruments for killing, okay, or animals for slaughter, slavery, intoxicants, which could be alcohol or drugs, and also in poisons. Okay, so these are that's kind of the No Way for Pass kind of framework to and guides, I guess, to practice on the path of Buddhahood. Now, more we talked about also the six paramitas because those are like more specific practices, okay, as well, and these are more to free us from self and attachment, right, and cultivates a mind of all inclusiveness. Okay, so basically, like giving, we call it generosity or charity, right? It's the perfection of giving freely, offering material things, teachings, guidance, confidence, protection without attachment or expectation of return. Right? It should come from the heart, right? The giving, so that makes it genuine, right? And then we should also, of course, I guess the internal aspect is to give up vices, evil attachments, desires, those things. Okay, so that's kind of relinquishment as well, but that's kind of the internal aspect of that. Then you have discipline, or you could say morality, ethics, or precepts. Basically, we adhere to ethical conduct by cultivating virtuous thoughts, words, and deeds, refraining from harmful actions. Okay? Forbearance, okay, it's also called patience and tolerance. It's enduring hardship, insult, without anger, resentment, or discouragement. Okay, so that's uh, uh, so, and then diligence, which is basically joyous effort, right? We have to be enthusiastic and sustained effort in our practice and cultivation, right? Tirelessly striving for the awakening and benefit of others. And concentration is, they also translate as meditation, right? It's developing a mental stability and clarity through single pointed concentration meditation. And wisdom, right? Perfection of discerning wisdom, realizing the true nature of reality. What's the fact that everything, there's this emptiness or sunyata, and then everything else, and it arises due to causes and conditions. Okay, so we'll get into these a little bit more. All right, so now let's talk a little bit more about these qualities of the four immeasurables. Basically, wishing for all sentient beings to be happy and to have causes or conditions for happiness, right? We are, if we're such a being, we want to be happy, right? We don't want to uh, so we're seeking stuff, whatever it is, to get that happiness. Now, of course, we should also realize that all sentient beings, they're like us. So other people, or animals or whatever, they're like us. And so we should also wish that we should not just wish this happiness for ourselves, but also for all sentient beings, right? But it's basically a type of benevolence, okay, without attachment or bias, right? So we're not also, we're doing things. So loving kindness is also, benevolence. So basically trying to do good, to benefit others. Okay, we can benefit ourselves too, but also benefiting others, but without seeking any kind of return. Okay, so that's without attachment or bias. And also we do that equally. So we treat all beings, all sentient beings, equally in this respect. Okay, so I know it's easy for us to say, oh, I will obviously treat my family better than I would treat other people. So this is the type of things that so that's ultimately, that's a type of bias, right? But a Bodhisattva or Buddha would not have that bias. Okay, so they will they will benefit and try to help others equally. Okay, so basically we want to cultivate kindness and goodwill towards oneself, okay, one's loved ones, neutral people, difficult people, and finally all beings in the universe, right? So again, it's a, for us, we're still kind of sentient beings. Uh, it kind of there's a progression, right? So we start with ourselves, and then we start with our loved ones, those around us, close to us. And then we can kind of expand that circle to just neutral people, means just other people who we neither dislike nor dislike. Okay. And then the difficult people, that's maybe the very hard one to do, is we kind to those who maybe they treat us badly, or stab us in the back. This is a difficult one, difficult people, but it's very hard for us to maybe overcome that. But that's ultimately something that we need to do. Okay. And then finally, all beings in the universe. So that, there's other, well, also, there's the animal life, right? Animals, insects, or other spiritual beings, right? Unseen to our eyes. So we have to have kind of that mindset, right? To emanate this kindness towards all beings. Okay. The care of others, so this is where we can maybe make sacrifices, right, to or at least prioritize helping others over our own self-interest. Okay, so this is kind of like the basic idea of this first immeasurable. You can call it a quality, or you can call it like a virtue too. Okay, these are like innate things that we must cultivate, I guess, these qualities within us, okay, to become a Buddha. All right, the second one is compassion. So that's wishing for all sentient beings to be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. Okay, so the first one was about happiness, and then this one is about suffering. So, we all know that suffering, everyone, living beings all suffer. So, yeah, obviously we suffer, and if we don't want to suffer, then we should also wish the same for all living beings, right? So empathy, right, with the pain and suffering of others and having a strong desire to alleviate their suffering, right? So, because, there's a saying, right? So we we have to put ourselves in the other person's shoes, right? So we can uh, relate to that, to what their other, well, any sentient being is going through, then we can feel their pain, right? Like you feel their pain, and so if we know we don't want to suffer, so obviously we shouldn't want others to suffer either. And if there is suffering, that we try to alleviate that suffering as best we can. Okay, so that is, that's compassion, right? Willing to suffer for others so that they do not suffer. Okay, so yeah, not only making sacrifices, but we maybe take their place if we can in suffering. Now, obviously, sometimes we can't do that. If our family member, someone is sick, and we cannot take it away from them, and but but anyways, we do what we can to try to alleviate the suffering. Um, and an ultimate goal to extinguish all suffering by ending the process of karmic rebirth and the resulting suffering. Yeah. So our path towards Buddhahood, we learn what is the truth and how do we end the suffering, right? Uh, and that is ultimately we have to transcend this cycle of karmic rebirth, right? Not create karma, so that we can receive the Tao, we can transcend, and so ultimately our compassion towards others is to also try to help them achieve that, because that would be the ultimate, you know, escape from suffering, right? It's not, I mean, we can provide for them in this life in, well, whatever limited way we can, but it won't end all their suffering. Okay, so the ultimate suffering is to basically have them receive the Tao, have them understand, these principles, learn these principles, understand them, and so that they can cultivate and basically achieve for themselves. Okay. All right. So quality is sympathetic joy. Okay. So this is basically rejoicing in the success and well-being of others as if it were our own, right? Um, so it's basically this genuine joy in the happiness of others without a trace of jealousy or envy. Yeah. So that's important, right? So whenever we see someone, hey, they're happy, or they're successful, then we should also be happy for them, right? We should rejoice in their happy in their well-being, and we should not be jealous or envious. So these are basically, yeah, you can say these are poisons. Okay, these are poisons of the mind, and they will prevent us from successfully cultivating, actually, and becoming enlightened. Okay, so since those poisons, we have to get rid of those, and in the potential bliss and happiness of all sentient beings as they can all awaken and ultimately achieve Buddhahood, right? So this is basically we because we realize, well, we know that all sentient beings have that Buddha nature, and they can become awakened, can become enlightened, and become like Buddhas, right? So so we can rejoice in that fact, that yes, all sentient beings have that potential, right? And so that is part of it. Okay, and then finally, the last immeasurable quality is called equanimity, right? So this is regarding all beings as equal without attachment, aversion, or prejudice or bias, right? So, just like Buddha or all the enlightened beings, they realize that we are all beings are the same, right? We all have that essence, that what we call that Buddha nature, right? And that's what makes us equal. Okay. And so we should not have any attachment, say, oh, like or aversion, which is likes or dislikes, basically. You prefer some people over others, or some living beings over other living beings, and no prejudice, right? So that's what equanimity, is, uh, pure, you can say it's equality, universal equality, right? Also, it's to yield and give up for others. So that's relinquishment. So being able to, this is to be able to sacrifice for others, and basically, they can, they could probably give up their life to if it was, for the sake of for saving sentient beings. And they people, they've done that, right? um, but it's also recognize the inherent equality of all beings and the karmic reality that each being is responsible for their own actions and experiences. Okay, so because sentient beings, we are all affected by karma, and the fact that, yeah, that is the case, and we, obviously even the Buddha cannot change karma, right, or eliminate our karma. So we're all in the same boat, and we all have to kind of achieve, kind of overcome it ourselves, right? Um, so inner peace as a result of the profound understanding and acceptance of fluctuations in life and diversity of other experiences. Okay, so yeah, so everyone's different, right? Because everyone's karma is different, and we should accept that. Try not to force people to be something else, right? Or try to force change. I mean, we of course we wish that people change for the better, but again, they have to do that themselves, and we can only kind of guide them, uh, and we shouldn't force them. Okay. Yeah, idea of, I am superior and I can force, well, then we're no longer, there's no equanimity there. Okay. All right. These qualities, it's really, you notice, it's about letting go of the self, the ego, for the sake of all beings, right? Because basically one is all and all is one, right? So in cultivating the four immeasurables, we get rid of our self, ego, and the ultimate result of this is achieving oneness with Tao. Okay. All right. Because the vowels are important in terms. Okay, so the measurables are kind of like these qualities, or you might say mental mindset or attitude, right? And so we kind of need to get that into action, so to speak. Okay, so you can start with the vowels, right? So we have the four great vowels, and basically, the four immeasurables, they provide the inner foundation and motivation for taking and fulfilling these four vows. But the explicit commitment and aspiration to actualize those qualities on a universal scale and bring all beings to liberation, right? So the vows actually, they represent the active expression and commitment to apply the four immeasurable universally, right? So so the first vow, right? Such means are innumerable. I vow to vary them all, right? So this is the ultimate expression of boundless compassion and loving kindness, right? It's the profound wish for all beings to be free from suffering and to experience happiness extended to every being of the past, present, and future, no matter how many there are. Okay. So a bodhisattva's aspiration to save them all arises from an immeasurable heart of compassion that cannot bear to see others suffer, and an immeasurable heart of loving kindness that wishes ultimate happiness for all. Second one, while this vow primarily speaks to wisdom, right, or the understanding of how delusions cause suffering and diligent effort in one's practice, it's underpinned by equanimity, right? To effectively help others overcome their delusions, a bodhisattva must first work to transcend their own, right? So again, these vows, of course, it applies externally, right, to all sentient beings, and also, of course, we also have these other, I guess you can call them sentient beings within us, the internal ones as well. Okay, so equanimity, right, basically helps one to face the inexhaustible nature of delusions, right, both our own and others, without becoming overwhelmed, disheartened, or biased. Right, it allows for a stable and clear mind necessary for identifying and eliminating those mental, I guess, the mental fog, if you will, the delusions. Okay, all right. The third one. Okay, so Dharma teachings are infinite, about to master them all. Okay, so it's basically effectively to save innumerable beings and help them end delusions, right? We need the wisdom and skillful means, right? So this vow is about acquiring all the necessary knowledge and through the teachings, right, and the methods to skillfully guide others, right? Mastering the teachings requires an mind of equanimity that is open to all teachings without prejudice or attachment to a single method. It's about developing the wisdom to apply loving kindness, passion, and sympathetic joy in the most effective ways for diverse beings, right? So, we have to be careful that we don't get stuck on particular teachings, right? So here it says, the vow says to master all of them, right? So it's not just, can we do one and then we say, oh, this is better than the others. Okay. Now, obviously, there are many ways of many practices or methods, and but and we get into that like in the the six paramitas, right? So that you have six things, but it's actually we have to do all of them. Okay. Now we might maybe emphasize one over the others, but still we have to do all of them, and we should not be too stuck on any particular one. Okay. Because basically, we have to have the wisdom, basically develop this wisdom to apply, uh, to apply uh, to our practice and cultivation. Okay. So perfect alignment is unsurpassed. I vow to achieve it. Right. So this is the ultimate aspiration and goal to achieve complete and perfect alignment, right, or Buddhahood. Right. This goal, of course, is not for personal liberation alone, right? Obviously, if we can achieve that, then we're liberated, right, from this world, from samsara. But actually, a Buddha, right, having these the four immeasurables, the qualities, will not be doing it for themselves, right? So it's precisely so that Bodhisattva can perfectly embody and manifest the four immeasurables on an immeasurable scale, right? Attaining the Buddha way means fully realizing ultimate wisdom and compassion, thereby becoming the most effective agent for the benefit of all beings. Right? The four immeasurables not just tools on the path; they are intrinsic qualities of Buddhahood itself. Right? So, our aspiration to become a Buddha is not a personal or a selfish one, right? It is if we want to become Buddha, that means we want to save all sentient beings. Okay. So basically, the four immeasurables, they're cultivated mindset and boundless intentions, right? Basically, it's the heart of the Bodhisattva or Buddha. The four great vows are the solemn commitment and aspirational declaration to apply these qualities to all beings and phenomena, driving the Bodhisattva's continuous effort on the path to awakening, right, for the benefit of everyone. Right? We cannot truly fulfill these vows without cultivating the four immeasurables. And the aspiration of the vows provides the limitless scope for the four immeasurables to expand and mature. So they are kind of like two sides of the same coin of altruistic alignment, right? So these four immeasurables and the four great vows, they go together. Okay, so they're right, and you can't really separate them, right? You have to you can't say, oh, I cultivate the four immeasurable qualities, but I don't take the vows and try to fulfill them. Okay, so they have to they're, they're actually one. So it's basically it's like one is essence and the other is function. Okay. Okay. Timeless in scope and the inspiration or motivation for all other vows. So we don't take these four vows directly. We take other vows, but they basically are derived from these four great vows. Okay, so let's see. So these are some of the vows. We'll kind of talk about that first one. So, okay, so prioritize the sacred or spiritual over the mundane. Okay. And timeless goals. So basically, yeah, so bodhisattvas, Buddhas, right? You can say that they are trying to fulfill those four great vows, but it's over eons, okay, more than, it's not just one lifetime. But the vows that we take here are, basically more specific for our cultivation in our current life. Okay, so, we actually cultivate these qualities of the mind when we are practicing this first vow, prioritize the sacred and over the mundane. Okay, so the principle here, provides a framework or motivation for developing these qualities, right? So basically advocates for prioritizing one's spiritual cultivation, moral development, and the welfare of all beings over personal worldly pursuits, material gain, and everyday concerns. Okay, so that's the mundane aspect, right? So what's the motivation, right, for this? Sorry, this is basically, this implies this vow, right? It implies a shift in our values, right? Instead of being solely focused on personal comfort, wealth, or reputation, right, mundane stuff, we prioritize spiritual growth and altruistic action, right? So that's kind of the sacred. This shift in priority is precisely what provides the fertile ground for cultivating the four immeasurables, right? So basically, if we can lightly regard our own desires and kind of heavily regard the spiritual path, we are naturally more inclined to dedicate time and effort to practices that foster, loving kindness, compassion, joy for others, and equanimity, right? Because those are qualities of selflessness, okay? In terms of loving kindness, we recognize the interconnectedness of all beings and the universal aspiration for happiness. Right? This understanding directly fuels the cultivation of loving kindness, the wish for all beings to be happy. Right? So if we are overly concerned with our own mundane desires, well, it's harder to genuinely wish happiness for others, especially for those who might seem to hinder our worldly goals. Or, if we are kind of seeking basically the self, there's at some point there's gonna be conflict with other people who are also have their own self-interest, right? And then so that won't work. Recognizing the suffering inherent in existence and feeling a deep desire to alleviate it, not just for ourselves, but for all, right? This is the essence of compassion. If one is lightly concerned with personal gain, we are freer to dedicate our energy to understanding and addressing the suffering of others, right? Embodying the compassionate aspect of the sacred. In terms of the sympathetic joy, right? So this vow kind of encourages transcending personal ego and envy, right? When we prioritize the sacred, we move beyond the small self, right? and embrace the great self, right? Or the universal self, right? So this allows us to genuinely rejoice in the happiness and success of others without jealousy, which is the very definition of sympathetic joy, right? The mundane mind, often driven by comparison and competition, struggles with this. Yeah, so that's thing that we have to overcome. That's our human mundane mind, kind of compare, and we have uh, jealousy, envy, these types of things. So so this is we need to overcome that. Okay, so this prioritizing the sacred is uh, supposed to help us do that. And if so, finally, so the ultimate expression of this prioritizing the sacred over the mundane, it leads to equanimity, right? By valuing the sacred, um, which is the path to liberation above the transient, mundane, the worldly ups and downs, gains and losses, right? One develops a balanced and impartial mind. We learn to view all beings and situations with a sense of detachment from personal preference, right? Recognizing their karmic realities. This detachment from the mundane allows for the sacred wisdom of equanimity to fully manifest, right? Providing a stable foundation for extending to the other three immeasurables without bias. Yeah. So basically, this is, the equanimity aspect is kind of fosters our innate wisdom. Okay. Um, and that wisdom that you can say, I don't know, the divine wisdom, the product of wisdom, is really the foundation for everything else. Okay, so basically, what seems like a very simple vow, right? Prioritize sacred over the mundane, right? It's not is prioritizing that directly supports and enables the deep cultivation of the four immeasurables by shifting our focus from self-centered mundane concerns to universal spiritual welfare, right? One naturally opens the heart and mind to boundless love, compassion, joy, and equanimity for all, right? So, so again, these specific vows here, uh, they're inspired by the four great vows and help us to cultivate the path of awakening so that we can also help others awaken, right? Well, this is these practices. Okay, so actually, some of those vows are relate to these as well. The giving of like the second vow, giving of materials and dharmas. Okay, so that's also one of the six paramitas, right? So just as the four uh, immeasurables are the fundamental inspiration for taking vows, right? The four great vows are the motivation for the practice of the six paramitas, right? Um, vows, right? They're the aspirational commitment, the ultimate pledge Bodhisattva makes to realize awakening for the sake of all beings. They define the purpose and scope of what a Bodhisattva does, right? So the six paramitas, their actual practice and are the actual practices and qualities that a Bodhisattva cultivates and perfects in order to fulfill those vows, right? So they are the means by which the vows are realized. Right. So basically, the vows are the destination and the like a so we can think of it this way, right? Vows are kind of like a destination or a mission statement, right? They declare, okay, this is what I want to commit to achieving, right? Enlightenment for everyone, ending suffering, right? Mastering teachings and becoming Buddha, right? So the paramitas are kind of like the roadmap and the vehicles to enable that I want to travel toward that destination and fulfill that mission, right? So they are the specific actions and inner qualities that make the vows a reality, right? So okay, so uh, basically so here in terms of saving all sentient beings. Okay, so giving, of course, that's a direct expression of compassionate action. Discipline, right, creates a safe and beneficial environment for sentient beings. We're not harming them. Forbearance allows Bodhisattva to continue helping without giving up. Okay, so diligence is essential to tirelessly work for the liberation of countless beings over countless eons. Um, and the the mental clarity and peace needed to skillfully engage with and help others. Whereas, wisdom also allows Bodhisattva to truly save beings, not just alleviate temporary discomfort. Yeah, so it's we have to use our wisdom to actually, I mean, physically we can only help them so much, but actually the greater good to help to save them, we want to save them spiritually too. Okay, so afflictions are endless. I'm about to end them all. So wisdom, of course, is most important here, since that addresses the delusions or the root of delusions, which is ignorance. Okay, so discipline, right, helps to curb the manifestation of defilements that arise from delusion, right? Forbearance helps overcome anger and aversion, which are major delusions. Diligence sustains the effort to overcome all forms of delusion, right? So we need to, maintain that, the effort. And then concentration stabilizes the mind, makes capable of observing and destroying delusions, overcomes attachment and stinginess, which are manifestations of a delusion. Okay. So the teachings are infinite about mastering them all. Well, of course. So diligence is fundamental for this tireless study and practice required to master infinite teachings. So we should, not give up on learning. Wisdom is necessary to understand the profound meaning of the Dharma and discern the appropriate teachings for the different beings, right? So we have to use our wisdom when we're trying to guide and teach others. Concentration provides the mental clarity and insight to deeply comprehend and internalize the Dharma. Giving includes to give the Dharma, right? To teach and guide. So we have to learn it first. And then discipline, forbearance, right? Create the stable ethical and mental foundation necessary for long-term learning and teaching. Okay. And then finally, the perfect enlightenment is unsurpassed. I vow to achieve it. So basically all six paramitas, they collectively lead to the attainment of Buddha way, right? They are the very path to Buddhahood. The perfection of these six qualities is what constitutes the realization of ultimate enlightenment, right? And the attainment of Buddhahood is not just for self-liberation, but to perfectly realize the ability to fulfill the first three vows on a limitless scale. Right. So the ultimate commitment, and then the paramitas kind of are the practical steps to achieve it. Okay. So the mindset is basically the mindset, commitment, and application. So these are the three components necessary to complete the path of ultimate awakening, right? We cannot, they're inseparable. We need all three aspects or all three components, right? So the four immeasurables, right? They're the foundational qualities of the awakened mind. Four great vows are the fundamental active expression and commitment to apply the four immeasurables universally. And then the six paramitas are the fundamental application of the four immeasurables and the way to fulfill the four great vows. Okay, right. So the four immeasurables, right? They're the foundation of practices for purifying the mind, developing genuine altruism, and overcoming anger, hatred, jealousy, attachment, delusion, and ignorance. Right. So they are the inspiration for the four great vows, which in turn are the aspirational goals of bodhisattvas. Right. They are the fundamental qualities of a Buddha. Right? By cultivating the balanced qualities, practitioners aim to reduce their own suffering and contribute to a more peaceful and harmonious world, developing a vast, inclusive heart that embraces all existence. Right? And virtues of the four immeasurables, and timelessly aspire to fulfill the four great vows. Right? Although their vows are great, only we can save ourselves and others by following the Buddha way, cultivating the same qualities and fulfilling those vows. All right, and that's concludes the topic. If I had said anything wrong or unsatisfactory, I ask the Buddhists for forgiveness and also ask transmitting masters and lecturers for their corrections. Finally, I also dedicate the merits from this class to all sentient beings who need it. Thank you.